In this video, we will be discussing the evolution of surfing and how engineering has played a key role in the progression of the sport. We will do this by analyzing the history, modern trends, and future of surfing, and also answer a big question of the surfing world. The question is this: how is it possible for surfing to evolve so much while the ocean has remained the same? To begin answering this question, we must first address the fact that surfing is very different from many other sports. In most sports, we engineer nature to fit man, such as leveling a football field or freezing an ice rink. But in surfing, there is no way to drastically change the ocean to fit man, so we had to engineer a way for us to be able to surf the waves of the ocean, and this process has been long and eventful.
Surfing originated in Polynesia, located in the South Pacific, and was brought to Hawaii by Polynesian settlers in the 1800s. The Polynesians brought with them their surfboard design and surfing style. These early boards and riding styles were primitive, but were the first steps in the evolution of the sport. Boards were cut from large pieces of wood, measuring 15 to 30 feet in length and being very thick. Riding styles were very primitive, with Polynesians simply gliding with the waves.
Early historical records from the 1700s record James Cook observing a man surfing for pleasure and describing it as, "I could not help concluding that this man felt the most supreme pleasure while he was driven on so fast and so smoothly by the sea." The board design of these early Polynesian surfers was simple, but also inefficient. Boards were large, thick, solid pieces of wood that weighed up to 150 pounds. They were sanded with coral and stained with bark and charcoal, and eventually finished with a glossy nut oil. Boards were still not very waterproof after this process, and the longer a surfer stayed in the water, the more waterlogged his board got, and thus it became heavier and much harder to control. Board design did not change much upon its arrival in Hawaii until the year 1926. It was in this year that Tom Blake began attempting to engineer a better, lighter surfboard. He attempted to reduce the weight of the board by drilling hundreds of small holes in it, and then covering the top and bottom with thin layers of wood. Blake also added rudders, which would later evolve into fins. He tried various different models, but Blake's new models were not entirely successful, with the board ending up weighing about 100 pounds. In 1932, though, it seemed that the surfboard weight problem was over, when balsa wood began to be used. This light wood led to forming boards that weighed only 35 pounds, very light compared to previous models.
One of the biggest changes in surfing history occurred in the late 1950s when wood began to be replaced by fiberglass. Fiberglass usage changed surfing forever in a variety of ways. Fiberglass boards with foam cores are easy to manufacture, and therefore surfboards became easier to obtain. This led to the spread of surf culture across the globe. Fiberglass boards not only helped to spread surf culture, but they opened the doors to countless new possibilities. They were easier to shape, allowing for different board designs to emerge. This was a big step in the evolution of surfing, for it allowed shapers to engineer specific boards for specific waves and riding styles. Engineering surfboard designs became as much of a sport as riding the boards themselves. Before long, longboards were considered classics, and new models of short boards had taken over. Shapers incorporated tail shape, rocker, and fins into different designs of the boards, such as egg, fish, and gun models.
New shapes of surfboards allowed for creative tail designs. Different designs such as the pin, squash, and fishtail all have different effects. The pintail allows for more control, which is useful in big wave surfing. The squash tail is a versatile tail, available to use for sharp turns on medium waves. And the fishtail is a wide tail, allowing a loose surfboard on the top of the water and good for small waves. Recent additions to surfing have included toe-in surfing, which allows surfers to conquer the fact that they cannot paddle into some of the biggest waves in the world, but still be able to ride them by being towed in by the use of a jet ski, such as seen here in Portugal.
very new and advancing surf technology is the WaveJet surfboard. It is a self-propelled board that provides 20 pounds of thrust and is remotely operated with a wrist-worn device. This technology is sure to advance in the future and only get better. An advancement to come in the future for surfing is surf parks. Few of these exist today, and they are on the rise. These parks replicate the natural waves of the ocean in a man-made environment. There is even potential for surfing to become part of the Olympics.
Now that we've analyzed surfing from its earliest days to its bright future, it's amazing to consider that even though surfing has been around for 3,000 years, most advancements have come in the last 100 years. This shows that anything can get better at any time. Whether it be something like safer and more efficient football pads or better transportation systems, we can never accept anything but the best, and always keep advancing even when it seems that we've reached our limits.